everyone, do you like sacrifices? Well, if you do, you're in a treat for today. Today we're going to watch a super fun position.
Hi everyone. So, who doesn't like sacrifices? Everyone does. So today we're gonna have a look at the positions that happened in the game of Fabiana Caruana and Ray Robson. The game was played last week or at the beginning of this week. So, and winning of this game helped Caruana to go to the next round. So let's start. The last move that black made is queen c7. Actually, this move is a mistake. And in this position, Fabiana Caruana found a nice combination, and he started an attack against the black king. So, Tara, do you have any ideas what white can do in this position?
Okay, so when we're talking about attacks, I like to look at all the different kind of sacrifices. So I noticed knight captures g7, knight captures h6, bishop captures h6, but I feel like all of them are worth being considered. So if we look at knight captures g7 and the king takes us back, you might be thinking of bishop captures h6. But what could happen after that? Let's say the king captures us back, and if we play queen to d2 right now, we don't really gain much because the king goes back to g7, and yes, we did open up the position a little bit more, and the king is a little more open, but the position isn't that great, and we lost 2 pieces, or we sacrificed 1 piece, so it's not too great.
Yeah, so in this position, white just doesn't have enough pieces to continue attack. So that's why knight takes g7 is not the best plan. So let's go back. So let's think what else we can do.
How about we look at bishop captures h6 this time?
Okay. So I don't think that it would be nice for black just to ignore this move, so probably pawn takes. And now let's think what would be the best move after g7 takes h6.
Okay, so I know it might seem tempting to capture the pawn on h6, but hold your horses, since we're moving the knight. We shouldn't capture the pawn because if the king goes to h7, then we come back to f5. And the king is just going, let's say the rook goes to h8 because they know that the queen is going to move to d2 and then h6. So what black is going to try and do is move the king to g8 so that the rook protects the square and so that the king can run away.
Yeah, so I have a feeling that black can just escape with the king, so that's why taking the pawn immediately on h6 is not the best idea. So the knight already is quite close to the king, so it's better for us to bring new pieces and improve our attack. So Tara, what ideas do you have? What would you do?
Okay, so when we're trying to add new pieces, I would try to add the queen because it's super powerful, right? We all love the queen. And how can we do an attack without the queen? It's really hard, right? Let's try and move the queen to d2.
Okay. So yeah, it looks like if the queen gets to h6, I don't see how black can like avoid mate on g7 or after knight g5, yeah, mate on h7. So position becomes very uncomfortable for black. So that's why black shouldn't let the queen to get to h6. Trying to defend the pawn doesn't help, yeah, because if king h7, for instance, would be played, there are still 2 attackers and just 1 defender. So instead of trying to protect the pawn, I think maybe black can try to block the white queen. So Tara, what ideas do you have? How could black like prevent queen takes h6?
So black could try knight to f4, which is a pretty tricky move because they're trying to block the pawn, and also that pesky knight is getting in our way. So knight to f4 is a really good move.
Okay, but of course, white shouldn't give up, and maybe now white can try to attack this knight. Yeah, so white wants the knight to move away. What would you do for white? How would you play?
Okay, so here I would try pawn to g3 and try and kick the knight away.
Mhm. Yeah, pawn goes to g3, attacking the knight. I don't think that, for instance, making a check would be such a great move. Yeah, so if you move the knight to f4, you just lose it. If you move it to g5 after knight takes, pawn takes, yeah, and something like this, I think next move will be queen g7 mate. So that's why it's not so great for black to capture this pawn on h3. And of course, black can't move the knight away because then the white queen gets to h6. So that's why Robson tried to defend the knight. In the game, he played knight f6 to h5. But actually, probably a little bit better move in this position would be king h8. So now if white captures the knight, yeah, it would be a little bit more easier for black to hold this position. Yeah, maybe black can include rook g8. So king h8 would give more chances for black like to continue playing the game. But let's go back to the moves that happened in the game, knight f6 to h5. So not the best decision. What would you do after this, Tara? How would you play for white?
So pawn to g4 is a move that seems pretty obvious, right? We want to try and kick the knight away. But what happens after knight to f6? Did we achieve anything? I think not. The knight is still on f4, and now it's pretty hard to try and remove the knight. So let's go back a couple moves.
Okay.
How about we capture the knight this time? I know that we can't remove it or try to force it to go away, but we can at least win some material.
Yeah, we sacrificed the bishop, so why not to get material back? And I think our plan is still like to move the knight away from f4. So let's think how we could try to make it work. So also in this position, maybe we can try to use an open file. Yeah. So Tara, how would you play in this position? What would you do for white?
I would play king to h1 with the idea of moving the rook to g1 on the next turn.
Yeah, of course. Why not to move the rook to the open file? So of course black doesn't want us to do this. That's why black played king h7 in this position. Yeah. And now an interesting move happened in the game. Like even if you have an attack on the one side of the chessboard, yeah, like in this position, it's a king side. You shouldn't forget about your pieces on another side of the chessboard. They still can help you in your attack and improve your position. So let's try to find a plan. Probably we still want this knight to move away, and we still want the queen to get to h6. But while the knight is defended by the pawn, there is nothing we can do. So I don't see how we can attack this knight more, but I do see how we can attack the pawn on e5 more. So Tara, what ideas do you have? What would you do for white?
So here, with as we said before, it's always great to add new pieces, and our rook on a1 hasn't done much yet. So how about we try rook captures a5?
Yeah, it looks like a nice move. The main idea is to attack e5 because if we get the pawn on e5, the knight on e4 becomes undefended. So, and our way to h6 would be open, so which is good for us. In this position, black played bishop b6. Still, maybe it's not the strongest move, but I think it's a little bit complicated to find a good move for black. Position is too hard to play. So bishop b6, attacking the rook. So Tara, what would you do? Do you want to move the rook away? Or maybe we can like leave the rook on a5 and still continue our plan.
So, in the spirit of sacrifices, which is one of the major themes in today's video, I would try and look at pawn captures e5 because if I lose my rook, but I can create an attack on the king, I would prefer that over losing the rook. So I capture, I'm going to play queen captures h6, and then after that, queen to g7 mate.
Yeah, so to be honest, I don't see how we can defend h6. Yeah, even if something like this happens, yeah, with the idea to defend g7, yeah, so to avoid queen g7 mate, we still have rook g1 and of course just an absolutely losing position for black. Yeah, if the king escapes, what can we do? So maybe even rook g7 would be okay, or queen g7. So of course just a losing position for black. So that's why taking the rook is not a good idea. What can black do? Just to capture the pawn, and this knight is still defended. Yeah, but not for a long time. So Tara, what would you do for white in this position?
Okay, so here I know some of you might be looking at knight captures e5 with the idea of trying to capture the knight on f4 with the queen. But I would prefer rook captures e5 because I protect the rook, I win a pawn, and I'm also threatening to capture the knight on the next turn.
Yeah, so the knight can't move away. If it moves away, yes, then just queen h6. Yeah, so queen g7 mate is not possible because now the knight defends. But I think rook g1 should be enough to mate next move, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, actually, after rook takes e5, Robson resigned because there is nothing black can do. So even if you like try to defend h6, yeah, maybe by playing rook a6, black just loses the knight. Yeah, if the bishop moves away, okay, so rook f1 could be played. So white just has an extra knight and a very bad position of the black king. So I think very soon the king would be mated. So yeah, that's why after rook e5, black just decided to finish the game and resigned.
Yeah, so for me personally, I really enjoyed this position because of all the sacrifices and all the action that happened. I thought it was so enjoyable and really fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. So I hope that you enjoyed the video. For us, it's a very interesting game and position.
Yeah, if you did enjoy the video, please support us by subscribing, liking the video, and sharing it to others. I'll see you on my next video. Bye!
Bye.